All right, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of Night Skies of Fort Collins. Once again, my name is Ben Gondras, and I am the Dome Theater Manager at the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery. And it's my pleasure to bring this program to you to tell you a little bit about what you can find in the night skies above Fort Collins this week and just around this time. If you are watching from somewhere other than Fort Collins, that is okay. Everything that I show you tonight should be visible from most anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere with some slight adjustments for timing depending on where exactly you are located. With that said, we are going to be using a virtual planetarium system called Stellarium to show you the night sky and, like I said, some things that you can see in it tonight and this week. This program is a free open source program, and you can actually go download it yourself if you'd like to. You can actually go to stellarium.org, and I'll go ahead and post that in the comments now, and download this program. And it's really great to be able to look at the night sky from any location in the world at any time. And so you can plan out your sky gazing trips and see what you can expect to see in the night skies when you go out to check out the sky at night. So with that said, this is a live program, so feel free to leave me any questions that you might have or comments that you might have during the show in the comments below the video here, and I will see those and answer them or respond to them if I need to as we go. And I will also stick around for a few moments after I'm done with the presentation to answer any lingering questions that you might have left. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and switch to Stellarium here. Excellent. So here we are looking at the sky as it would appear right now from right here in Fort Collins. And let's go ahead and make time speed up faster than normal so that we can watch the sunset and get a good view of the night sky. Now, oftentimes during these shows, I do start out looking west as we are here. However, tonight we're actually going to rotate around a little bit. Let's slow down time some. And we're going to rotate around and move time to about 10 o'clock, so about an hour and a half after sunset here. And we're going to look in the southeast for a couple of very bright objects that are rising over that southeastern horizon. And if anyone has any guesses on what these bright objects are rising right above the southeast here, you can probably see two objects that are much brighter than the rest. Go ahead and leave a comment if you know what those are. And if you picked out these two objects here, and if you knew that these two objects were planets, you would be correct. Planets often appear much brighter than the stars around them, as they are actually objects in our solar system. So they're much closer to us than the stars. And they are actually reflecting the light of the sun, which makes them much, much brighter than the stars around them. That also makes them easy to spot and find in the night sky. So here in the evening at about 10 o'clock, about an hour and a half after sunset, we have two planets rising. We have Jupiter and Saturn. And Jupiter and Saturn are looming low in the southeast after dusk, and they climb as the evening grows late. Jupiter is the brightest. Saturn is about 6 degrees to its lower left, as you can see here. And these two planets are going to be at their highest at around 1 a.m. And all July, they are at their telescopic best. So they're going to be really, really good targets to look at if you have a telescope. And even if you don't have a telescope, planets are a lot of fun to try to find in the night sky. So let's go ahead and get a little bit of a closer view of these two gas giants. We'll zoom into Jupiter here. And if you had a pretty decent telescope, you would probably get a view pretty similar to this. Kind of a dim planet with some of the moons of Jupiter surrounding it. So we have here Io, Callisto, Europa, and Ganymede. And let's go ahead and zoom in to get a little bit of a closer view of Jupiter. So here we can see the bands of clouds surrounding Jupiter that are just in constant turmoil. All right, let's go ahead and zoom back out to our view from Earth, and let's zoom into Saturn. Saturn, of course, is the ringed planet, and you can indeed see the rings of Saturn through a telescope. So here we have beautiful Saturn, as well as a few of its moons scattered around it. Excellent. So if you have a telescope, or even if you have just binoculars or just your naked eye, go ahead and go out tonight and see if you can find Jupiter and Saturn in that southeastern sky. They're very easy targets to spot. Just to the right of Jupiter, just to the right of Jupiter and Saturn is a constellation, and that constellation is formed by this teapot shape of stars. You can kind of see this teapot here. And this constellation is the constellation Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is, the broader constellation is this centaur with his bow and arrow, and he is actually pointing directly at the center of our Milky Way Galaxy. And I'll talk more about that in just a moment. But just to the right of Sagittarius is another very bright, easy to find constellation this month, and it's oftentimes called the Orion of summer. Orion is a winter constellation, but it's very easy to find, as is this constellation, which is Scorpius. And you can identify Scorpius pretty easily by finding this red giant, and this star is called Antares, and here is Scorpius. And much like Orion in the wintertime, Antares is a red giant, and Orion also has a red giant in it, Betelgeuse. And I'm just going to point out a few of the interesting stars within the constellation of Scorpius. So the head of Scorpius, this near vertical row of stars here, actually let me go ahead and show you the artwork here. There we go. So this is oftentimes referred to the head of Scorpius here. It's kind of one of his claws, I guess. But this top star is known as is known as Beta Scorpii or Grapheus. This star right here. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit so we get a better view of this star, and the stars surrounding it. This star is actually a double star, and it's visible through a telescope. And here is a really good telescopic view of Beta Scorpii, or Grapheus. And just 1 degree below this star is the very wide naked eye pair that you can see here, and this is Omega 1 and Omega 2 Scorpii. Not quite vertical. They're both fourth magnitude stars. And in the magnitude scale, we know that the lower the number, the brighter the star. So magnitude 1 is the brightest star in the night sky, all the way up to magnitude 10, which is about the limit for binocular viewing. Binoculars, however, do show these two stars' slight color difference. And in fact, here is a close-up view of these two stars in the lower right of this image. Binoculars show their slight color difference. Omega 1 is a blue-white dwarf that is approximately 424 light-years from Earth. Omega 2 is a yellow bright giant star, approximately 265 light-years from Earth. The system has the proper name Jabhat al-Aqrab, derived from the Arabic, which means the forehead of the scorpion, which is pretty fitting for its location within this constellation. Left of Beta is the star Nu Scorpii, or Jabba, which is another fine telescopic double, or rather, actually triple. High power and good viewing conditions reveals Nu's brighter component itself to be a close binary star. Nu Scorpii, or Jabba, is 437 light-years from Earth and illuminates the reflection nebula that you can see right here, IC 4592. All right, so I pointed it out a little bit earlier, but if you have good viewing conditions, meaning if you have a nice dark sky away from light pollution, you should be able to see the Milky Way Galaxy. And the Milky Way, right now in the summertime, forms a magnificent arch high across the whole eastern sky after nightfall. It runs all the way from below the constellation Cassiopeia, the Queen, through the Summer Triangle, which is an asterism formed by the bright stars Vega in the constellation of Lyra, Deneb in the constellation of Cygnus, and Altair in the constellation of Aquila. As you can see, the Milky Way passes right through these three bright stars, and then, as we said before, passes right in front of Sagittarius. And this really bright part, as I mentioned earlier, is the very center of our Milky Way Galaxy. So if you can get somewhere away from the city lights, I would highly suggest doing that, as this is really a spectacular sight to see. So if we look to the northwest now, high in the northwest sky, we'll find a well-known collection of stars known as the Big Dipper. Pretty much everyone is familiar with it, so it's very easy to find in the night sky, but it does consist of these 7 stars: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And the Big Dipper is an asterism, which is actually part of the constellation known as Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. And you can think of the Big Dipper as scooping up water through the evenings of summer and early fall. If you crane your head back from the Big Dipper, you'll find another constellation known as Corona Borealis. And Corona Borealis can be found pretty easily. If you're having trouble finding Corona Borealis on its own, you can actually find the bright star Arcturus, which is located just about 20 degrees southeast of the star. And an easy way to find Arcturus is to make an arc, with the handle of the Big Dipper and follow that arc until you reach the brightest star that follows that, and that is Arcturus, which is part of the constellation of Borealis. But Corona Borealis, or the Northern Crown, as you can see here, consists of 7 stars that form a wide curved horseshoe shape between Borealis and the constellation of Hercules, the hero. Now, Corona Borealis also hides a surprise: the Recurrent Nova T Coronae Borealis, or TCRB. TCRB is a binary star system containing a white dwarf and a red giant star. Now, similarly to this animation, over time the white dwarf pulls material from its companion until enough is built up on the surface of the dwarf that it sets off a runaway thermonuclear explosion, lighting it up without destroying the white dwarf in the process. Although the system is currently too faint to see without optical aid, it's around a magnitude 10 right now, it's been known to reach magnitudes of 2 or 3, visible to the naked eye, during an outburst, and it's nearly due for one, already experiencing a period of high activity. Knowing that, this may be a good region of the sky to check out every so often, and don't be surprised if a, quote, new star appears one night, visible as a small spur off the curved crown shape. Now let's go ahead and move time forward so we can view the sky as it would appear in the early dawn hours. We're going to face east to point out a few more objects. Now, as we move time forward, you might see a couple of bright objects. This guy is, of course, the moon. And here we have another planet. and that planet is Mars. All right, let's go ahead and slow down time here. You can see the sun is beginning to rise in this early morning. We're at about 4:30 a.m. here. But in the early dawn sky, about an hour before sunrise, you should easily spot the large pentagonal constellation known as Auriga, which is located right here. Its alpha and brightest star, Capella, is about 28.5 degrees northeast of the Dipper-shaped Pleiades star cluster, or M45. People often mistake this for the Little Dipper. However, this is a different object. This is a star cluster. Just 43 light years away, Capella is a multiple star system. Its two brightest components are Capella AA and AB, and they are closer together than the Earth and the Sun. In fact, they orbit each other every 104 days, and each is more massive than the Sun. Just 30 degrees south of Capella is another bright object located right here, and that object is Venus, yet another planet. Venus is going to be at its brightest by the end of this week. Now, I've got another little bit of astronomy news for you guys. You may have heard recently about a new comet that has entered our sky, and this is known as Comet C 2020 F3 Neowise, and is located around here. This comet was discovered on March 27th from some 326 miles above Earth's surface by Neowise, the Near-Earth Object Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, which is a space telescope launched by NASA in 2009. Some skilled observers have reported that once you spot this comet with binoculars, you can remove them and see the comet with the unaided eye. And in fact, I've seen reports from people that I know that have seen it, and they've been able to spot it without even using binoculars, which is pretty amazing. However, if you want to see the comet's split tail, you will have to use some sort of optical aid. Comet Neowise was closest to the Sun on July 3rd, passing by it at about 26.7 million miles away, or a bit closer than the average distance from the Sun to Mercury. Observers are still reporting seeing it, and so it appears to have survived this close encounter with our star. Oftentimes when comets come by the Sun, they melt and break up and become much dimmer and harder to see after their close approach to the Sun. Comet C 2020 F3 is up at dawn now and should remain in the dawn sky until around July 11th. And here's a photo of it actually taken from Lebanon. And this photo was posted to the Astronomy Picture of the Day website, which is a really cool website. If you want to get a new astronomy picture every day, you can go to APOD, Astronomy Picture of the Day, apod.nasa.gov to see a new astronomy picture every single day. Now, the comet is in the dawn sky right now. However, it will temporarily disappear below the horizon while making a transition to the early evening sky, becoming visible again in the evening over the western horizon around July 15th to the 16th. If the comet remains relatively bright, it might be easier to see in the second half of July during evening dusk, because at that time it will appear somewhat higher in the sky. During the first days of July, Comet Neowise is a little tricky to catch because, as you can see, it is in the light of the dawn sun. However, it does have a visual magnitude between 1 and 2, and as I mentioned before, the lower the magnitude number, the brighter an object. However, for comets, this may not be as bright as a magnitude 1 star, and that's because stars are pinpoints of light, whereas the light of comets is diffuse or spread out. So for comets, a magnitude of 1 or 2 is a bit fainter than it would be for a star of equal magnitude. Comet Neowise has even been seen from the International Space Station. Russian cosmonaut Ivan Wagner says the comet's tail is clearly visible from the space laboratory's cupola. Look at this amazing image taken from the International Space Station of Comet Neowise. Now, Comet Neowise will be closest to Earth on July 23rd. It will pass at some 64 million miles from our planet. The good news is that if the comet continues looking great, the view during the night of the closest approach should be pretty good. Although binoculars, as I said before, might be required for the celestial visitor, it will be visible at the same time we see a beautiful crescent, but not too bright moon. In the meantime, it might still be a good idea to get up early in the morning this week and try for a glimpse of Comet Neowise while it's still relatively bright, just in case it gets fainter later this month. And if you want to wait for the next visit of Comet Neowise to Earth's skies, you might be waiting a long time, as it's not going to visit us again until around the year 8786. So definitely get out and see it this week. Well, that does bring me to the end of our presentation. Thank you guys so much for joining me once again. And if you do have any comments, please do feel free to leave those in the comments section, and I will answer your questions. And if you enjoyed today's program, please do consider giving us a donation to support all of these programs that we've been doing, as we really depend on your support to make these sort of things happen. And you can do that by going to fcmod.org/donate, and you can donate any amount that you would like. And thank you once again for joining me, and I hope you get out and see some amazing things in the night skies this week. Once again, if you have any questions or comments, please do feel free to leave those for me and I will answer them. I'll stick around for a minute or two to see if we get any questions. Thank you for watching, Lionel. Yeah, Jemmy, I think I'm going to go out and try to find the comet as well in the dawn skies. Sometimes, as I said before, these do get dimmer, unfortunately, so they get harder to see, but I've heard reports that it's really pretty easy to find right now. Excellent. Awesome. Thanks for watching, Stacy. All right, well, if there are no questions, these videos do stay up on our Facebook page, so you can always go back and re-watch them if you want to, or leave a comment on the video as well there, and I will see that and try to respond to those when I see them as well. But otherwise, thank you once again for joining me here on Facebook Live for this program, and we will see you at the next one. Have a great night, everyone.